I am joined by some very good company. It is, of course, the educational consultant and former deputy principal of Rice College, Mr. John Burns. John, how are you?
I'm very well, Alan. How are you doing?
I am good.
You're looking very well today.
Your ability to lie is impeccable as always.
Well, I was teaching for years.
You are, exactly. You never lose it. And that is why you were here, not just to lie to me about how I look, but to impart some of your educational knowledge on people. This week, you're going to chat about school and discipline policies. What put this in your mind as something that we should touch on?
I thought it was something we would touch on at some stage because it is a part of school that kind of tips into parents' lives quite a bit and also is very much part of a student experience within school. But it was triggered really when I got a question last week by email from a parent, and the question goes as follows. John, my son has been suspended from school for 4 days, and the reasons given in the letter from the school cite ongoing disruption in class, as well as foul language towards the teacher and classmates, along with no homework. And could the school have dealt with this matter without suspension, as it has upset the whole house?
Okay.
Now, that encapsulated for me why you have a code of discipline, and it encapsulates for me sort of where we are nowadays. I am never harking back to the good old days because that's a different way of looking at things. But you look at the actual story. The suspension was for 4 days, which is quite big. The reasons are ongoing disruption, so not just one class. Now remember, if a student disrupts a class, they've disrupted the teaching and learning for 29 other students, or 23 other students if it's one of those specialised classes like woodwork or home economics. Now, the reasons for the disruption can be looked at later. But disruption is disruption, and the minute you have that disruption in class, the teaching stops until the disruption is dealt with. If you've one student going from class to class, constantly disrupting, you're going to affect the learning capabilities and academic achievements of their classmates. Now, if the disruption has nothing to do with a child's particular special needs, let's take that out of it. Let's just say this is disruption in a sense of old-fashioned disruption, is that a student knows what they're doing. They understand that this disruption is going to cause problems, is going to bring attention to themselves as being, I'm the big I am, I'm great crack in class. But it's not funny after a while because it really does affect the teacher's ability. If you're trying to teach a complex part of biology, or you're trying to teach a complex mathematical, theorem, and you have someone in the middle of the class who's just derailing everything, it isn't good enough. It's not fair. So that person's behaviour has to be dealt with for the sake of everybody else. But so we have ongoing disruption in class. I was kind of glad to see that because that would definitely justify a serious reaction from the school. Once off, everyone does
And
it.
that was what I wondered, as you said at the outset when people hear, and you touched on as well, 4 days seems quite severe, but if this is ongoing, ongoing could be days of this, weeks of this, longer, and one instance of it, as you've just outlined, is bad enough, but if it's ongoing and it's affecting 29 other students and a teacher on a regular basis, you have to have a big response to that. You have
to, and I often say to students who are involved in ongoing disruption that they've got the geography of the school mixed up. This classroom is not the playground.
Exactly.
You need to keep that stuff outside, and you need to respect, first of all, you need to respect your peers. They need to learn. Some of them are not as bright as you are. Some of them are far brighter than you are. And you have your place in the class, but your place is not to disrupt everybody else. If you continue to disrupt everybody else, then the school has to, in effect, a sanction to protect the teaching and learning. That's the overall overarching view of the whole thing.
Okay, so look, discipline, a code of discipline. Every school has one. I guess incidences like this is why they need one. But can you just explain in more detail what a code of discipline actually is for a school?
I can, but I just want to look at the question for a second, Ellen, if you don't mind. We looked at ongoing disruption. The student also foul language towards a teacher. Yeah. Now, you think of that, right? I was speaking to Adrian Hardiman outside, who's community policing. respect for police in our country, respect for figures of authority is dropping. And if we don't maintain it within the school system, it's going to percolate outside the school. So it's unacceptable for a student to use foul language towards a teacher or their classmates. And that must be reacted to by the school. If you let that off, then the boundaries have changed.
Yeah,
the students have taken over and the teachers are on the back foot.
Yeah, a child behaving that way towards an adult, but also B, a figure of authority, just unacceptable on both counts.
Yeah, no, exactly, and also we have continued no homework. So that's also painful for teachers trying to get that child to learn. Could the school have dealt with this matter without suspension, as it has upset the whole house? Well, I am sorry.
It's upset the whole classroom on a regular basis.
Well, it's upset the school. It's upset the class. It's upset 9 classes a day in some cases. And the suspension is not meant to target the family or the parents, but in fact it does. Personally, I've never seen suspension as particularly effective because it targets parents and the family more so than the student. But there are times, Alan, when the student has to be removed from the school for a particular amount of time to contemplate their behaviour, to have some sort of a contract put in place for their reintroduction to school, so that when they start again, we might be, in a better frame of mind.
And John, can I ask you, whilst you say suspensions maybe not the best route to go down, in your experience, did you find that when a suspension was utilised, when the student at the centre of that eventually returned to school, had it given them time to reflect on what they did, and did they change their tune?
Only insofar as the remediation programme that was given to the parents when the student was suspended was followed. For instance, if a student is followed, they'll be sent out with a schedule of work to complete. Their homework will be sent home by email. The year head will be in contact with the so the school hasn't completely backed away. If that's kept on, and if the student goes home and on a suspension and they're treated as, poor John, God love you, what did you do wrong? Go upstairs there and watch some television. Sure, we'll go out for a meal later on. Yeah. Don't mind them. They're all very bold in that school. If that's the attitude to school, the student will come back just as bad as ever. If the attitude from the parents is to support the school in the discipline structure, then you're going to have an effective outcome. Because, I wouldn't like to have been suspended from school when I was in Flanders, because you would go home and it would be worse when you got home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because you see, students are students, they will test the boundaries. But when the boundary goes beyond and it affects the teaching and learning, you have to stop them for their own sake. Now, schools are a microcosm of society. So let's say you have a student in school and they know that if they do this bad thing, that the school will react by giving this particular sanction. So the school gives the sanction. Let's say they've told the teacher to F off, so they've been suspended for a day or whatever it is. Because you need to support the teachers as well, otherwise you undermine them. And it's hard enough for them now doing their job because it's become very complex. So the scenario is the student has told the teacher to F off. The school has responded by issuing a 1 or 2 day suspension. And the suspension has been challenged by the parents. Therefore, while the challenge is going on, the student has to be in the class of the teacher he's told to F off.
Still potentially causing issues.
So that's not good. No. That's not good. And I often say to parents, hang on a second. If you go down the route of trying to justify bad behaviour, it's the same thing as saying to somebody uptown that, look, you can jump that red light because you don't like the colour of it, and the guards will be okay because we'll write you a note. There are rules to be followed. Yeah,
you're emboldening their behaviour.
Yeah, you're giving them a God complex. And, students need to behave, students need to learn. Schools do not suspend willy-nilly. They don't like doing it. They don't want to do it.
Drastic
it's a
measure.
Bureaucratic nightmare. And more often than not now, it's been challenged.
A listener has texted us on 086 1800 964 to say, good morning, Alan and John. And the point they're making is this would put off any young teacher to teach in secondary school. And I think that's a key point, particularly, John, when the issue of difficulties in finding teachers is an issue we've discussed on Morning Focus before, maybe not with yourself, but definitely as a talking point. This would be off-putting to some people who are thinking of a career as a teacher and think, you know what, I don't think I could be dealing with that on any sort of semi-regular basis, dealing with abuse, and also having your authority challenged in front of a room of a load of other youngsters. And for some people, that's a nightmare scenario as to how to handle that effectively.
Yeah.
Without losing your cool.
Straight away, my reaction was when you read the text, and great to get the text in. don't ever let that put you off going teaching, or a young person going off teaching. The majority of schools are very well managed and they have a robust code of discipline. We hear all sorts of horror stories about what goes on in schools. They are actually quite rare. Okay. You walk through any of the schools in Ennistown or around Clare and you'll hear silent corridors during class time where the students are allowing the teachers to do their job. The parents are supporting the school in doing that and the thing works fine. There are situations, and it is maybe growing slightly, that some students are being bowled and bowled, whatever you call it, and being supported by parents who know they're being bowled. And I would say to those parents, please don't do that. Let the school do its job, because by letting the school do its job and enforce its code of discipline, it's going to help you as a parent. You can't let the child dictate everything. That's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I think parents in that situation, they're unwittingly setting their child on a continuing bad path. Mm-hmm. What are the points do you want to make about how schools handle these kind of difficult situations anyway, John? As I said earlier on, you know, any school has a code of discipline. I guess instances like this is why they need it, but how effective is the code of discipline and how generally do they work, or can it differ quite a bit from school to school?
The school's code of discipline is only as effective as, first of all, if it's implemented by all staff in a very comprehensive way, that they're all doing the same thing, if they're following it. You can't have outliers. You can't have someone saying, I want Alan suspended because he dropped a paper on the floor, as opposed to, you know, why they really need to be suspended for something else. So it has to be supported by school management, very much so. It has to be there to protect the teacher and the student, and it has to be bought into by the Parents' Council, Students' Council, teachers and staff. Now, once you have that system going, once they know what it is, it's going to be very effective and it's going to be used very rarely. Now, I must say that most schools have what they call a code of discipline, which is balanced against their pastoral care system. If the behaviour is ongoing, is there something else behind it that we need to look at? This might not be a discipline issue. This could be an issue with the child being upset. So you need to investigate that. So all that's going on. But how it works, Alan, is it works from the 90% of little problems in school are handled by the teacher as classroom management. It can be just a look. And I was very good at that. You give one look and they'll be very quiet. Or
you're giving it to me now.
Yeah, there we go. Or it can be just, listen, will you calm down? Or will you just give it, or will you stop what you're at, because it's impressing nobody. Something like that can be enough. And then if they keep going, you write a report card, goes to the year head deals with it. It's the build-up of report cards that would trigger a detention first, which is quite effective, because that's you're holding them after school for 45 minutes and we make them do work they might not particularly want to do. And then if they're still misbehaving after the detention, you're looking towards a suspension.
Text in here in 086 1800 964. This is someone who I think is maybe fond of the corporal punishment era, saying years ago you'd get a hop of a duster and it would quieten you. Now the students are allowed to do anything and the teacher isn't allowed to touch them. Well, we don't want the teachers being allowed to. You don't want the students swearing, using foul language towards a teacher and disrupting a class, but by the same token you don't want teachers being able to hit students.
Well,
there's a code of discipline is there. That'll be effective.
Well, that's very effective, but I suppose it's out of fashion these days. But I remember when I was going to school, there was a particular teacher that when you messed or you acted up in that particular teacher's class, he had a big bunch of keys and he threw the keys at you. Ooh. Oh yeah, and then the biggest punishment was he'd make you pick up the keys and bring them back to him. So you know, we all got a belt of the keys from time to time.
Well, you had the imprint of a key embedded in your forehead.
Yeah, but you mean the bigger situation is this: parents are doing the best for their students. Schools want to help you. If the school is affecting a discipline sanction because your child has been errant or misbehaving, if you can support the school in that, it's enormously effective. Now, sometimes schools get it wrong, and you can challenge that, but you know, helicopter parenting, which is becoming a thing in education systems, is where the boundary goes from parents assisting the school, which is always welcome,
to monitoring almost,
to overseeing what's going on, to be there, maybe watching almost everything, and situations where some students who are bold at times are brought home and sat down at the table and asked, okay, what happened today, and did anyone give out you, my little dear, so we can ring the school tomorrow and email and saying you shouldn't be at that. That sort of system is not great. It doesn't help the staff, it doesn't help the children.
Okay, any final point you want to make, John?
Work with your school. really do. I mean, just know that they're there to help you, not just in educating your child, and also remember that the secondary school system is the last chance that we have to keep them on the rails. And if a school has no rules, if it's all willy-nilly and everyone can do what they want, that's not good training for the rest of their lives.
No, definitely not. That is a good note on which to finish. But John, thank you very much. That is the former Deputy Principal of Rice College and Educational Consultant, John Burns.